Welcome to Crime Time, your ultimate destination for thrilling true crime stories. The true crime stories are so horrifying that it's hard to believe they actually happened, or that people could be capable of such atrocities. However, all these stories are true. Sometimes real life is harsher than fiction. Sometimes real life involves murder, kidnapping, betrayal, torture, and death. Join us as we delve into true crime cases. This video covers some of the most famous murders that have rocked the world. In some cases, murderers have been identified, tried, and punished. Other cases remain open and may never be resolved. John George Haigh. John George Haigh was a British serial killer active in the late 1940s. According to Forensic Magazine, he used to burn the bodies of his victims in sulfuric acid. Haigh was convinced that he was getting away with murder, literally, because he mistakenly thought that there was no crime without a body. It was his pride that finally caught up with him when police led him to the body of his sixth and final victim, 69-year-old Olive Durand-Deacon. During the trial, Haigh pleaded insanity and insisted to the court that he drank the blood of his victims. He was convicted in 1949 and hanged a few months later. Dennis Nilsen. A wax model of British mass murderer Dennis Nilsen is assigned to its place in a prison setting in the Horror Chamber of Horrors at Madame Tussauds Waxwork Museum in London, England in April 17, 1984. On the right are waxworks of the infamous London gangsters, the Kray brothers. Dennis Nilsen terrorized London in the late 70s and early 80s, killing 15 people over a 5-year period. Nilsen would pick up young men from bars and take them back to his home. There he would strangle or drown them. After the death, he bathes and dresses the bodies, according to the investigations. He admitted to the police that he kept the bodies for a long time to have sex with them and talk to them before disposing of them. He was serving a life sentence at HMP Full Sutton Prison in Yorkshire, England. Richard Speck. When Richard Speck walked into South Chicago Community Hospital, where he systematically tortured and murdered 8 nurses, the state of Chicago was forever changed. Speck led the nurses like lambs to the slaughter during a 5-hour attack in the early hours of July 14, 1966. Distracted by his own killing spree, Speck didn't realize one of his hostages was hiding under a bunk bed until the massacre was over. She then jumped out of the window and ran for her life. The victim remembered Speck as having a tattoo that read, "Born High." 2 days later, the cold-blooded killer arrived at Cook County Hospital after a suicide attempt, and a doctor recognized the tattoo from news reports. Kermit Gosnell. Kermit Gosnell performed subsequent abortions in his dirty and unsafe clinics at the Women's Medical Association in West Philadelphia. He had owned the medical center since 1979, and complaints about his medical treatment went back decades. In 2011, Gosnell was arrested on suspicion of murdering 7 babies who first survived attempts to abort him, but then succumbed to his unspeakable evil. A grand jury heard that Gosnell was not an obstetrician and gynecologist because he failed to qualify, however, and he charged up to $3,000 for each late-term abortion. His staff members testifying against him described seeing babies move or cry after he performed the terminations, and the accounts of how he ended their lives are deeply distressing. Gosnell was convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder, including manslaughter. Tara Calico. On the morning of September 20th, 1988, in Belen, New Mexico, it seemed like a perfect day to ride a bicycle. Tara Calico borrowed her mother's pink bicycle to go out for a spin. Outgoing and active, she worked as a bank teller and was studying to become a psychologist or psychiatrist. She had planned to play tennis that evening and asked her mother to follow her in case she got a flat tire and wasn't home by noon. She never went back. A year later, every lead led to a dead end until a photo was found depicting a young woman her age and a missing boy. But still, due to the lack of evidence, many experts dismissed the photo. Calico's parents would eventually die, never finding out who had taken their daughter. The separated feet mystery. In 2007, a girl found a pair of sneakers while lounging on a beach in British Columbia. She was horrified, and when she opened the sock, she found a human foot inside. Since then, a number of amputated feet have washed ashore. The feet were attached to 5 men, 1 woman, and 3 of unknown sex. Over the years, with a hoax thrown in here and there, the case has never been fully closed, and many theories have been floated about who owned the feet. The boy in the box. It was 1957 in Philadelphia when a hunter found the mutilated body of a little boy in a JCPenney box. The boy, aged 4 to 6, was stripped naked and wrapped in a flannel. He appeared to have died from the blows to the head. The hunter did not report the body, fearing that his muskrat traps would be confiscated by the police. 2 days later, when a university student found the body, the police began investigating America's unknown child. It immediately caught the attention of the media, and the boy's flights were seen all over Pennsylvania. Girl Scout murders. In the summer of 1977, 3 Girl Scouts were raped and killed at an Oklahoma camp. The girls, Lori, Michelle, and Doris, were between the ages of 8 and 10. About 2 months before the murder, a camp counselor found a disturbing note in her belongings. The perpetrator promised to kill 3 children in the camp. Knowing that young campers love to tell scary stories around the campfire, the camp counselor dismissed the threatening note as a joke and a decision she would regret. Issei Sagawa. Issei Sagawa comes from a wealthy family and has exhibited murderous urges since childhood, even engaging in brutality. At the age of 23, he made his first attempt at eating human flesh, breaking into a woman's house and cutting off some of her flesh. He was caught and charged with attempted rape. He then went to France to get his doctorate in literature. Sagawa then kills and eats his classmate Renee Hartevelt at the age of 32. He admitted that he lured the 25-year-old Dutch woman to his apartment under the guise of poetry work. He said he chose her for her beauty and health, 2 things he believed he lacked. After shooting her in the neck, he ate different parts of her body for 2 days. He then tried to throw her body into a lake in the Bois de Boulogne, but was caught. Granny Killer. English-born Australian serial killer John Wayne Glover was famous for preying for elderly women, including the widow of artist Will Ashton. Over a 14-month period between 1989 and 1990, Glover brutally beat and killed 6 elderly women. At times, he used his fists to attack his victims. With others, he used objects such as hammers, his victims' pantyhose, and other implements. Many of his victims were simply women he saw walking down the street with whom he engaged in casual conversation. In addition to beating and killing the 6 women, Glover was accused of molesting and sexually assaulting several other elderly women. True crime stories have a unique way of captivating and unsettling us, offering glimpses into the darkest corners of humanity. From unsolved mysteries to chilling acts of violence, each case leaves lingering questions that defy understanding and challenge our perception of justice and morality. As we reflect on these stories, it's important to honor the victims and recognize the enduring impact these crimes have on individuals, families, and society as a whole.